So just 2 weeks ago, the internet was lit up with a flood of new reveals at Gamescom. But out of everything that dropped, one reveal completely stole the spotlight. And that was Hollow Knight's Silksong. And it was epic. Like dude, absolutely fucking brain melting. It got great visuals, fast action and some slick gameplay mechanics. Sure, you can't really judge the gameplay from a trailer alone, but it already looks smooth as butter. You can see why it's been one of the most anticipated games since the day it was announced. And fans, they are going nuts. After waiting this long, the hype is unreal. People are already speculating it could straight up be Game of the Year. Every corner of the internet is buzzing with breakdowns, theories, and overhyped posts, and honestly, you can't even blame them. And some fans out there are even saying that Silksong is real. And why wouldn't it be? The prequel released back in 2017 was nothing short of brilliant. Back when it was released, within a year, it was racking up critical acclaims. People were praising its art style, its haunting soundtrack, its tight combat, the atmosphere, everything. It wasn't just another indie game, it became the indie success story. And just to put that in perspective, it sold over 50 million copies in its lifetime. That's insane for a small studio making their debut title, which brings us to the facts that made it a classic among other games, one of which was its exploration style. Hollow Knight doesn't really hold your hand. You are the one in charge here. The whole world is a massive maze of interneted zones, where one path leads into another, and before you know it, new shortcuts are opening up. A lot of those routes are just there to explore for fun, or to grab some extra loot. But every now and then, you will stumble into the actual way forward. That's especially true in the first big area, the Forgotten Crossroads. And man, if you have played it, you know half of us got lost in there for way too long. Like you open the map, swear you are headed the right way. 5 minutes later, you're right back where you started. The game's packed with secrets, and every new movement upgrade you get makes the map feel bigger and smarter. It's classic Metroidvania design. It rewards you for paying attention and makes you feel clever, not just lucky. Now throw in bit of a Soulslike tension. Hollow Knight doesn't just slap you on the wrist, it makes you on every move. Meanwhile, most games today are like, oh, you died? Here's a checkpoint 3 inches back and a free medkit. But Hollow Knight just looks at you and goes, nah, you're walking up back yourself, jam. It's the kind of game that actually expects you to get good at it, which feels refreshing when so many modern games practically play themselves just to keep you around. While Hollow Knight is not doing that. It's being real, I guess. But that whole lose and try again loop isn't there to frustrate you. It's what makes the wins feel so good. And then you have got the charm system. Basically little puzzle pieces for your build. There is never one perfect setup. And of course, you always want to equip like 10 charms at once. But nope, the game's like, enjoy picking your favorites, nerd. Basically, you would want 10 charms, the game gives you 4. And suddenly you're theory crafting longer than you're fighting. It pushes you to experiment, and that's what keeps it fresh. Combat overall, super smooth, tough in that sweet spot way and always fun. The enemy variety is great too, the boss fights are insane, and yeah, Team Cherry kept piling on more with the DLCs. And if we get into the story and art style, maybe not perfect, but honestly pretty close. This is where Hollow Knight really shines. Even people who aren't fans of the gameplay usually end up respecting these parts. The art direction, the way colors are used, it makes every area in Hollow Knight stand out and stick in your head. You see a zone once, and it's instantly memorable. Which brings us to the essence. Hollow Knight honestly feels like a near perfect game. And what makes that even crazier is that it stacks up against AAA titles that have entire armies of people and billion-dollar budgets behind them, and still comes out looking better than some of them. For an indie, that's wild. Even when you try to nitpick, like looking for bugs or performance issues, there's basically nothing. The game runs smooth, plays tight, and is so polished that it makes you wonder what exactly AAA studios are doing with their billions. Besides inventing new ways to sell horse armor. That kind of quality is rare, and it's a big reason why people keep coming back to it years later. But now that we are just a week away from the launch of Silksong, let's rewind for a second, because the story behind this game is wild. Silksong was first announced all the way back in 2019, and get this, it wasn't even supposed to be a full game. Team Cherry wanted it to be a little DLC for Hollow Knight. But then they realized, nah, this thing is huge, it deserves to be a full sequel, and everyone went nuts. Then came the wait. From 2020 to 2022, total silence. No trailers, no big updates, nothing. And finally in 2022, they popped up at the Xbox showcase, dropped a new trailer, and even promised we would get the game within the next 12 months. But guess what? That never happened. By 2023, they admitted the game had gotten too big, delayed it again, and then boom, vanished off the face of the earth. Fast forward to last week, out of nowhere, Silksong shows up at the Gamescom with a trailer and a release date, September 4, 2025, and the hype was through the roof. And for those who don't know, it's also hitting Xbox Game Pass on day 1. So yeah, you can also play it there. And after the brilliance that was the original Hollow Knight, with its bug-free launch, its insanely polished world, and a 10 on 10 rating on Steam, you would think Team Cherry would just play it safe with a sequel. But after seeing the Silksong gameplay trailer, it feels like they didn't just make a sequel. They decided to redefine what a sequel even is. And here's the kicker. The Hornet's movement is so fluid, it almost feels like the game's daring you to keep up. Combine that with new combat mechanics, vertical exploration, and all handcrafted environments we have seen so far. And you can tell Team Cherry isn't interested in giving us Hollow Knight 1.5. They are going all in to make this something that stands on its own, and it could not only live up to Hollow Knight, but maybe outdo it. But here's the funny part. Silksong isn't just a big deal for fans. It's actually kind of a problem for everyone else. This thing has been sitting at the very top of Steam's most wishlisted games for years. That means the second it drops, every eyeball in the gaming world is locked on it. And for a small indie dev, dropping your game anywhere near that release window is basically asking to get overshadowed. Some studios have already admitted they're pushing their launch date just to avoid clashing with Silksong. Because, let's be real, nobody wants to compete with the most anticipated indie sequel in years. When your game is so hyped that it literally clears the calendar, you know it's on a different level. So at last, let's put our stakes on September 4 and finally experience Silksong when it drops. And yeah, I will be bringing an experience video of the game after playing it at launch. So stay tuned for that.
Oh my god!